set. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning. I'm Amelia with the Chamber. We're happy to have Jackie Lewandowski with Robert Half International presenting with us today on resumes. So with that, I will hand it over to Jackie.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amelia. My name is Jackie. I'm branch manager here for Robert Half Accountants and Office Team here in Danbury. And one question I've been getting a lot lately is actually just resume help. So I figured we'd take the time this morning and go over just some key pointers and tricks with resumes, some mistakes to obviously avoid, and how to write the perfect resume and cover letter. So we'll get right into it. And thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
All right. So 5 rules of a strong resume. Of course, first let's start with just, having a foundation for a strong resume. Hiring managers obviously expect to be wowed by your resume, and they're likely to receive dozens of applicants for positions. So, and most likely the same position that you're applying for. So yours really has to stand out. There's really 5 rules of engagement for this. The first rule is just avoiding generic one size fits all resumes while job hunting. You want to make sure that it's customized for the position that you're specifically applying for. Before sending it off to a prospective employer, it really is important that it's tailored to what that role is. So always take a few minutes to really study the qualifications that are required and do some research on the company. Maybe include your relevant work accomplishments in that. So that's number one, it's customized. The second is that it's proofread carefully for typos and grammar. You really need to edit your resume for accuracy. That includes not only spelling, but also grammar, dates, and other numbers. After you've printed your resume and reviewed it, ask a relative, friend, mentor, or someone with just great grammar skills to be able to review that. You really want to make sure that, again, any kind of return on investment numbers that you're adding to it are accurate too. In a survey, 63% of senior managers just said that 1 or 2 resume mistakes actually would eliminate an applicant from consideration for a job. So extremely important to make sure that this is accurate. Number 3, don't make your resume just a list of your past job duties. Focus on contributions that you've made to your employers which have improved workplace culture or the company's bottom line. Essentially, what we were speaking about before, return on investment. Was there a time that you implemented a new process that saved your previous company time or money? You really want to note that. Number 4 and 5, you want to keep your resume brief and to the point, and you want to make sure that it reflects you at your professional best. So, of course, important to eliminate any casual references or language and just really focus on, keeping things really kind of straight to the point. And we'll touch base on these rules within our discussion today. So using keywords to highlight results, really check out the strong resume introduction. It really gets a leg up on the competition by quickly quantifying your contributions. You really don't just want to focus on job duties performed instead of highlight results. So for example, did you identify ways to streamline those inefficiencies as saved your employer time and money? Again, it's that ROI, return on investment. Working well with others is a must for any role today, and being a great teammate. So it's really important to provide examples just how you partnered with colleagues or individuals and maybe other departments and how you were a good collaborator. As you write your resume, you want to make it aim and include keywords that you've gleaned from the job description and focus just on your personal accomplishments that have been relevant for that position. Keep in mind hiring managers typically use nouns when running searches. For example, they might use management experience rather than experience managing. Very important to just kind of take a note as to how you're phrasing your resume. Picking your resume format, there's really 3 major formats. Chronological, very useful of applying in a field which you've had a track record of success. More of a functional resume is useful in drawing attention away from maybe employment gaps, or instead places an emphasis on transferable skills. Useful for workers with freelance or maybe contract experience rather than full-time positions, or maybe someone who's changing a career path. And then there's a combination format, or something that I like to call a hybrid, which really does, the best of kind of putting both chronological and functional together. I do recommend this for new to the workforce, professionals that are just looking maybe for their first position. And I have highlighted this on several talks that I've given just based on, seniors that are graduating from college into the workforce. Very important to note, it's okay to put, classwork or maybe some sort of senior projects that you did, internships in this to make sure that it flows well. Resume sections. While there's always fluidity in the format you choose, every resume should have 4 basic sections, and you can include a 5th at the end covering any kind of special certifications, awards, and professional memberships. Very important when you're putting in your contact information, you want to make sure that you avoid any cheeky email addresses and you include contact information via social media. Be sure that your online profile represents you at your professional best. So on here, you want to make sure you have a neutral professional email address such as jramirez@email.com versus I love baby back ribs at email.com. So we can obviously see the difference there. Bear in mind with the need for brevity and consideration of the reader's attention span. So resume should not be longer, than really 2 pages. So, write tight and be concise and get to the point. Using bullet points beneath headings really helps guide the eye to relevant information. So as you see here, we have contact information summary, experience, education, and as we'd mentioned, always important to add any kind of special certifications, awards, professional memberships that you might be a part of. Before we get into the ins and outs of writing a cover letter, I'm sure you're thinking maybe some people, do you really write cover letters nowadays? The answer is yes, because hiring managers like to receive a cover letter with each resume. 91% of executives polled by Robert Half said cover letters are valuable when evaluating job candidates. It's really a good opportunity to really hone in on as to why you might be a good match for a position. Obviously you have to respect the application process for each position. Maybe there isn't an opportunity to add a cover letter, but it is important to have maybe one on file just in case. So cover letters in the digital age, 79% of executives polled by Robert Half indicated it's common to receive cover letters even when candidates submit resumes electronically. Job application processes has been, moved online, especially recently. Doesn't really mean that the cover letter has outlived its usefulness. So at that point, it's simple to actually include that. When you're applying for a position electronically, you can actually paste the cover letter into the body of an email message, and you can send it directly to the hiring manager or the appropriate space on an online application form. There's usually an opportunity to upload a cover letter, but keep in mind that, as I mentioned, not all job application services really allow you to take that step, so it's important to just follow the process. Purpose of a cover letter, it's really to make a strong first impression, direct attention to your most important aspects of your resume, and of course to really highlight just your knowledge of the company and address maybe concerns about your background or skills. Again, really does help you make that first impression and directs a hiring manager to the aspects of your resume that are most important or relevant for the position that you're specifically applying for. Putting a lot of research and time into your cover letter really allows you to demonstrate that, or allows you to have a leg up and gives you the opportunity to really hone in on as to why you and why you now for that role. Could be difficult in a resume to do so. So, of course, really highlighting and showcasing knowledge of the company that you might be applying for. If there's a little room in the resume for you to explain what you know about the company, how your skills can directly tie into the employer needs, that's obviously fine too. But of course, your cover letter represents your only means of explaining aspects of your work history, such as employment gaps or lack of direct experience in the field you're applying for that might otherwise portray you as being unqualified for the position. To start that off, of course, a strong salutation. Whenever possible, avoid to whom it may concern, dear sir or madam. If you know the hiring manager's name, it's important to add that in there. So, of course, address them by, dear Ms. Lewandowski, or whatever, whomever you're applying to, and include the title of the position in the email subject line. And you can definitely call if you do not know, who to address this to. It's important to make a connection in your cover letter. If someone had recommended you apply for the position, it's obviously something that you can add if you want to say, like, I'm writing at the suggestion of our mutual friend. This is an example of Wally Warble, who told me that you may be looking for an assistant. Obviously, be careful and cognizant of this. If it's someone that gives you the permission to do so, then yes, I would move forward with that. But it is important to, be respectful of the fact that maybe someone isn't giving you that permission to do so. So, connection has to be legitimate. The name you use has to belong to someone who would be recognized and respected by the person you're reaching out and writing to, and of course has given you that permission. So highlight on that. Person whose name you use doesn't have to be a close friend. It could be someone you know through LinkedIn or a contact you recently made at an industry conference. And on examples are just, the screen are just good examples of introductions. I recently had lunch with your director of marketing, Sue Salient, who suggested I write to you and send along my resume. So something as simple as that can actually make a really great connection in a cover letter or email. The body of your letter, there's really 5 components to this: your current situation, what you're looking for, qualities you can bring to the job, 1 or 2 points from your resume, and just aspects of your background that could, work against you. So always important to explain your current situation, whether you're presently working, out of work, maybe you're on a temporary assignment or so on. You might also mention how you heard about the position. Telling the hiring manager what type of career opportunity you're looking for and why the position you're writing about actually interests you. Telling the reader that specific qualities you can bring to the job, and expand upon or call attention to 1 or 2 points in that resume, and explain, just as I mentioned, anything that could be a gap. So you want to customize your content. 33% of executives polled by Robert Half said the most common mistake people make in their application materials is actually failing to customize them for the position. As we mentioned earlier, you really want to tailor your resume for the role that you're applying for. You want to make it relevant, and you want to make it stand out to the hiring manager, and they could pick up your resume and say, oh, I absolutely understand why, so-and-so had applied for this position. I would obviously determine which professional accomplishments to focus on by reviewing the job posting. If you're applying for a position that involves managing a small team, maybe play up your interpersonal skills and previous experience overseeing small groups. You'll have a lot of competition outshining you if you don't. As we mentioned, just 1/3 of CFOs said the most common mistake people make in application materials is just failing to customize. You really need to make sure that you're doing that. And what we're focused on what you can offer. Keep one thought in mind as you draft your letter. Here's what I can offer you. And this means that the letter should really focus on your mix of skills and experience that can contribute to the company. You want to link your most relevant qualifications to the needs of the employer you're targeting, and emphasize what you can do for their company, not what you hope to gain from them. And this slide really illustrates what I mean by that. I know what I would enjoy the dynamic atmosphere that prevails in your company, and I would enjoy working with your clients. That's what I want. Here's what I can offer you: dynamic atmosphere that prevails in your company and very much in tune with the atmosphere in which I have always worked best. I know that my knowledge and passion for this field would enhance the customer relationships that are so fundamental to your company's success. It's a very big difference in that. You want to keep it short. Lengthy cover letter can actually work against you. Hiring managers don't necessarily have a lot of time to review them, so you want to keep it to a crisp 2 to 3 paragraphs. And remember, of course, the goal is to pique your employer's interest and avoid rehashing your resume. You certainly don't want to make your cover letter a summary of your resume. You want to make sure that they have interest to move on to the next page to review your resume. So keep it short and simple and to the point. And of course, 2 to 3 paragraphs is absolutely something that I recommend. Of course, we need to address potential concerns. If there's something on your resume, or maybe an employment gap, a layoff, a career change, I think it is really important to highlight that and just attack it on the front end. So we're actually going to address, or go into and dive down a little bit further as to how we would address these 3 components here. If you're handling a layoff, in your resume, of course, best bet is to be upfront and briefly explain what happened. For example, I would say, when my previous employer was downsized, I was one of 30 employees who was laid off. I mean, that is absolutely relevant and something that you can add and say in this. And I would obviously follow up with information about how you've kept your skills sharp. It could have been I was volunteering with an organization, and say I had a finance background, I was assisting and volunteered my time in their finance department. It could be, something of temporary work, where maybe you kept your skills sharp by doing an Excel project. There could be a lot of different areas that you could be, kind of putting onto your resume, or helping out and actually handling that when you have to talk about a layoff, but it's something that you can do for sure. handling an employment gap, of course, you want to acknowledge the gap and explain how you've remained, again, productive and connected in your field. Same thing, it could be something that I'm working remotely on Excel reconciliation projects and helping out a local company or a nonprofit. You can add that and actually show that that's how you're keeping your skills sharp. And of course, it's just an example. So it just shows commitment and motivation, both of which are appealing attributes to potential employers, and it just addresses that on your resume. And a career change. I think that this one's obviously really important. You want to play up your relevant expertise and transferable skills, enthusiasm, and really just show how your past experience relates to your job requirements. I would use a cover letter to play up the relevant expertise and, transferable skills, and maybe show just how, those past experience can relate to that job. Maybe you would say, in my previous 15 years experience as a top selling sales rep, honed on my interpersonal communication and negotiation skills, all of which are relevant to your company's need for a project manager. I've certainly had a career change in my past. I was doing nonprofit management before, working in staffing, and that was definitely something that I did highlight when I interviewed with Robert Half initially. So, I think it's something important and a good way for you to just showcase your personality and how, though you're taking a new direction in your professional life, though it is relevant experience. Finer points of cover letters, you really want to convey your excitement. You want them to know that you're enthusiastic about the job opening. You can conclude your letter by saying, working for your firm would be one of the high points of my career, or I'm excited about this opportunity, look forward to meeting you in person. You want to be honest. Of course, you don't want to stretch any truth about your accomplishments or anything on your cover letter or resume. That's very important. Present a professional image, proper grammar, no spelling errors, avoid any slang or text message style abbreviations. Believe it or not, some recent job seekers have been known to spell the word you with a single letter U as if they were texting. So really keep in mind that that is something that you really want to make sure that is a professional. I mean, it really is your first impression with an employer, so that is very important. Don't make any demands. Cover letter is not a place to ask for a specific salary, other work-related requests, vacation time. You want to wait to make sure that you actually have the job offer before broaching any of those topics. So you certainly don't want to add that. Ending on a strong note. When you're concluding your cover letter, it's important to have strong close, of course. So advice here is just to keep it short, keep it professional. One sentence is really all you need. Here are some examples. Thank you so much for your interest and consideration. I welcome the opportunity to meet with you in person or speak over the phone, and just add a simple, sincerely, your name, and you're done. Or are you? Well, the final steps, of course, is proofread, proofread, proofread. 63% of senior managers said just one or two resume mistakes, again, would eliminate an applicant from a consideration for a job. So it's really important that you have a peer review, whether it's your cover letter or resume, and of course, follow submission guidelines. 17% said that it takes one typo to rule candidates out. So when you're ready to hit send, make sure that you're following all those directions. And of course, usually employers frequently list specific instructions. It could include the job title and the subject line. It could just, put your cover letter in a certain file format. That's really your first test as an applicant. So you need to reread the job post carefully because there could be some really specific instructions in there. And if you do not do that, it would look as though you're really not following along. Here's some examples of what not to say in your cover letter. Before we conclude, I just want to leave you again with these. These are just excerpts from actual cover letters our company has received through our Resumania program over time. There has been, we've obviously have reviewed a lot of resumes, and we pick out things that we always try to use as a teaching point for other professionals who are looking to hire, looking to apply for a position. So I'm not sure if any one of you have come across a cover letter that contains statements like these. It's obviously the same rule that of etiquette that applies to resumes. You never want to badmouth a former employer or complain about a previous job. Hiring managers really want to find an energetic, talented employee who really wants to take the time to enhance the teams and grow their business. So keep it positive about your potential as a new hire will shine through. All right, and that is it. That is Resumania and how to avoid and write the perfect resume and cover letter. Perfect. Oh, sorry, Amelia, I can't hear you.
That was awesome. Thank you. Sorry. Um, if anyone has any questions for Jackie, you can certainly use the chat feature um, here. And otherwise, I I love the like texting type of it's yeah, I can't believe that we've come there that people would use you instead of YOU. It just
Oh, that stuck out to you.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's funny. I get emails often with those types of abbreviations, and it's still like I'm just not used to it yet. So I don't know if that's the way we're all going to be going one day, but you know,
Yeah, unfortunately, it's something that we do get a lot, and it's just, taking the time. And that's where, I like to come in and assist in any way and just kind of share other ways that maybe you would want to present yourself when you're applying for a position. And I think one of the important takeaways, something that you know, again, no one really thinks of cover letters anymore. I think that they are important, especially if you're doing a career change or you're really trying to address anything in your background, that would be something you would want to highlight. So,
absolutely. Yeah, they do take some time, but I think tailoring it, like you said, and tailoring it
mhm,
specifically to the jobs is so critical just to set you aside from the other candidates. So
100%.
yeah, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for the information today and for
Of
sharing that.
course.
And we're doing our YPC lunchtime series for the next couple of Wednesdays. So tune in next week at the same time, 11:30, and we will be having Jackie again. And we look forward to seeing you. So thanks
Awesome.
for joining.
Cool. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.